Yeah!
Alright, my name is Robert. I go by a lot of names, including Bob, Big Bob, Bobbert, and the Big Bob.
I like Bobbert.
Bobbert? That's what's on my tag. Bobbert. Alright, who here has written a fanfic?
A terrible one.
That counts.
I've written terrible fanfics too. You're doing fine.
Maybe versus Shredder from a long time ago.
Alright, so the reason I decided to come to talk about this panel is that I've been working on a fanfiction all year, and this is actually, I don't know, I've lost track of how many I've written over the years, but this is the first one I've gotten that's actually got me, it's actually been fairly well received, and I just kind of wanted to talk about my process writing it, and kind of problems I had, issues I had, and hopefully answer questions, although I've looked up a couple of fanfics right before the panel started. It seems like some of you guys are on the same level as me, so don't think of me as an expert or anything. But anyway, the fanfiction I wrote was called On the Line. It's a story about Princess Luna going into the dreams of a dying little filly.
Oh boy.
Has anyone read it?
This will be a happy
It's on fanfiction.
Is it illustrated?
No, it's all text. That's right. It has the little sine wave for a heartbeat.
No, I was
And I guess I should probably go back to the first fanfic I wrote, which was actually probably more than a decade ago, and it was actually a Futurama fanfic.
Oh boy.
could have been worse. Could have been Kingdom Hearts fanfic.
Yeah. It was just about Fry skipping his job one day, and it was actually just a complete ripoff of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And of course, when I started writing Pony fanfic, actually not too long after after the fandom kind of blew up. I think it was 2010. I don't know how many of you were still who were following the show by April 2010, but kind of the thing that got me into it was there was this Equestria Daily contest, and they said, "Oh, all right, we want you all to write a short fan fiction about April Fool's Day." And gotta be like 5,000 words, and they thought that they would get like 15 fics at most. They wound up getting like 80. And of course I didn't win, but it kind of opened my world to me, and it kind of made me realize just how enthusiastic this community is. Especially that's one thing I really like about the Pony fan base, is that we got so many artists, we have so many music creators, so many writers, that it kind of inspired me to write, because I've always loved stories. I have a mountain of books and video games and DVDs of all sorts. I think we all do. And I got writing, and I wrote a few fictions. They're okay. I mean, nobody looks back at their first fanfic and think that it was fantastic, best work ever. Although actually, when you're writing it, it feels like it's the best work ever, doesn't it? And then
about a year later, your reaction is burnt with fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but with this most recent one, actually, I just finished it a week ago. That's probably not enough for the complete regret of the story to kick in. But it's been really well received. I've got a lot. One thing that's really surprised me about writing on the line was I get really positive comments, and not just saying like comments. Oh, this is amazing! Can't wait till the next chapter. Though I do get a lot of those, but I also get a lot of comments that are saying, oh, this is you have a really interesting premise. I think in this chapter you need to use more body language, or you're kind of misusing the word lay and lie. And I don't know. For those of you writers, I hate lay and lie. I get them confused all the time. And one thing that really surprised me was when my story got featured on Equestria Daily, I actually got a series of comments by a guy who he loved these stories so much that he he posted analysis of all the chapters on how everything I did wrong.
Critiques?
Yeah, exactly. And when you get like somebody posting pages and pages of criticism, it's like, well, I guess this is a compliment.
In a way.
Meaningful critique is really hard to come by.
I know.
I know, and that's what really baffled me is it's the quality of the comments. You know, people really see this and they really connect to it, and obviously they want it to be better. And I've really improved over the last year because of this. I don't have necessarily a structure for this, so I guess I can open up for questions. If anyone has anything burning on mind. They say it is a pretty kind of a grim, thick. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's leave with that.
Yeah. So I have like a big idea in mind, and I've been like doing a bunch of world building for it, and I've had like constantly a bunch of different ideas. But the real problem is that I somehow can't force myself to actually write it.
Oh, that I will admit that is the biggest problem. God damn it! Why are you asking me to restart? All right.
It's this room, man.
Change
No.
one little thing. Would you like to restart your computer?
Exactly. But yeah, that is definitely my biggest problem of just sitting down and writing. And you know, it's kind of exciting at first when you have this idea that you just want to write down on paper so that first chapter can come very easily. It's just kind of everything after that.
Yeah.
And it's if you ever wonder why your favorite fiction takes like 6 months to update, it's because life tends to get in the way.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that it isn't like just like a one chapter thing. It's like I have even like a whole skeleton structure of it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like this has been several months planning it. I've had the idea for several months, and I've kept throwing ideas in. It's just putting just typing the keys on.
And sometimes when I write, sometimes I get a little bit anxious. It's because it's like, man, I don't really know what I want to. I kind of know the idea of what happened in the next scene, but I don't know the specifics of it. And so I get so caught up worrying about what I'm gonna do when I get to that scene. When really the answer is just, fucking write whatever. Just write. When you get to that.
Isn't that one of the best parts? Because you're...
No, it's not.
Like,
What I was trying to say is there's a certain joy to just, I know, but it was Applejack's secret sister that no one knew about. Just come up with something out of the blue because you even surprised yourself. Admittedly, sometimes you surprise yourself, then look back and go, no, it's a stupid idea. But still, that's the right part.
One thing that really surprised me when I was writing this was that I would have a very vague idea of what I want to happen next to the story. And, like I said, I would get kind of anxious. I didn't really know when to progress until I figured that part out. When I realized that, I just have to write. And amazingly, every time I finished a chapter, it would just kind of flow into the next one. Mm-hmm. Because you get a sense of where the story is going, you get a sense of where the characters are, so then you figure out what you want to happen next. Mm-hmm. And obviously it is a good idea to have an outline. You want this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And kind of the weird thing for me is like, I have a beginning point, I have an end point. How do I get them together?
Yeah.
That's usually where I fall apart. I'm pretty OCD. So
Yeah.
I worry about it and they never do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a ridiculous one. Another kind of weird. One thing that's kind of weird about the story is, of course, it is a going to dream story, and I don't know about you all, but I have really weird dreams. I have dreams where the Joker is taking me hostage during a zombie apocalypse. And so, when you're
Stop bragging about it.
That sounds awesome.
I hate my Joker zombie dreams.
Not only that, I've had dreams where I was sharing a hotel room with the Joker, and I tell you, that guy's a jerk.
Just like, don't open the meeting for the Joker.
Yeah.
Charges.
Exactly.
Take it, Joker. Don't have to pay for that.
Quit eating all my shrimp.
What do you mean you ordered room service?
And so, of course, when I have like this, this serious story about a little girl who is dying, but I also have this opportunity for dreams, it kind of this weird mishap where you can have like the tender moments of the character building and how this girl's life has gone to hell, and you also have really weird dreams like, oh, well, I'm gonna throw this little girl in the zombie apocalypse. Why not? And actually writing dreams is really easy because then you can get away with all sorts.
Yeah.
You can do all.
Maybe Applejack Applejack suddenly disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, and like one of the chapters, like Luna walks through a door and she is literally like she goes from a like lab in a basement to like a city in the sky. It's like, how the hell did I get here? Say it's a dream. Accept it. And actually, that was some of the feedback I got. Is I don't really buy this whole society that you created in this dream. It's like, have you had a dream before? Nothing makes sense ever.
You had a dream in a dream.
Dream.
Somebody pointed out that
I don't ever know.
someone pointed out that Luna was daydreaming within one of the dreams, and then somebody perception theme. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously that my premise gave me a lot of flexibility, and it's very different from the one I wrote before this was actually a Slender Pony story. Which, the thing is, even if you write the greatest Slender Pony story ever, there's still like 10 billion Slender Pony stories on the internet. So the chances of someone actually finding yours are pretty slim, and especially when you write chapters that take 10 hours to read.
I posted a Slender Let's Play. Good for you.
Yeah.
Is your name Markiplier? No.
Wow. Good luck with that.
I will say that one of the things I am glad is that I have yet to have an OC that is completely perfect. I have no Mary Sue's, which I know that's what happens with everybody's first fanfic. You write, the character that's perfect and goes through that.
Mine was self-insult, so.
I actually got lucky in that regard. I heard the no alicorn rule pretty early on, so I managed to avoid that.
Wait, what's the new alicorn rule?
The no alicorn.
No alicorns? Oops. That's pretty much my entire story.
It's very interesting, reading all the other stories that get posted to EQD, and I was reading about one of EQD's rules is you can't submit stories about humans in Equestria, and of course that's pretty easy because it's all most of them are self-insert, they're Mary Sue's, and it's kind of the same thing every time. And one very interesting comment I saw was someone who said that it's a shame that you don't accept human in Equestria stories.
What about humans though?
Yeah, that's how you do it.
The Astro Girls universe now?
Oh, well, are you talking about Equestria Girls?
Astro Girls are fanfics out there called humans that I think they allow. It was about two of the writers from the show.
I think that might be a little bit. I think it might be a little bit different if you're using. I mean, anything goes.
Though that does bring up a good point.
But one thing that really interested me was there was a comment complaining about the lack of the no humans in Equestria rule, and they proceeded to list like, well, this means that you can't have these fictions. They proceeded to list like 50 different, fan fictions about humans in Equestria. I'm like, do you do anything else with your time besides read fan fiction?
I did for a while.
I tried.
That's a real problem.
What are the kind of guidelines for writing the Model 20? What are
Are you talking about the EQD timelines or guidelines?
like if you're going to write something that's like Equestria, what kind of guidelines are there that you have to keep in mind when you're writing?
Well, if you're writing for fan fiction, it's pretty open. They'll pretty much, if it's somewhat grammatically correct and is about My Little Pony, they don't get posted. Though I do have some. There are some things I noticed about my story, like I said, when I wrote the Slender Pony story, nobody looked at it because it was a Slender Pony story. Then I write this, literally going to Dreams of Dying Philly. One of those is more unique than the other. So if you have a unique hook, then that can get people to at least look at it. And I've seen a lot of stories that just kind of open with the pony going about their daily lives, and that's kind of the idea. One thing I've heard about writing stories is that generally you want to
Start with something cool.
yeah, you want to have something to hook them, or at least it has to start like 15 minutes before shit hits the fan.
Start as close as possible.
Yeah. Because if they see, oh, this is an interesting premise, and then the first chapter is the characters fapping about, then they're gonna lose interest. So you kind of have to put yourself in the reader's shoes. And what I did for this story was, they read the premise about Luna going to the Dreams of Dying Philly. First chapter, very first sentence, you have it. There is a girl waiting in the rain crying. So it's like right away, they have a very clear picture of what is going on. They don't necessarily know all the details. but it's kind of a very striking image, and I felt that seemed to be enough to get a lot of people in. And from there, it was kind of back and forth. There was a lot of Luna waking up and then conversing with Celestia about what's going on, and Celestia's a little bit part of it. Actually, I really like working with Luna and Celestia because they're kind of ancillary characters. Like, they're developed enough so that you get a sense of who they are and kind of what you can do with them, but they're also not locked into their characters, so there's a lot of room for interpretation. And especially compared to Twilight or the Cutie Mark Crusaders or anyone.
Yeah.
And because they have very set personalities. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows exactly what they do. So it's hard to deviate from that path and add your own interpretation to them. However, you can also go like the very other way, and you have characters like Lyra and Octavia and things like that. And I don't find myself as attracted to those because those characters have zero personality other than the personality that the fandom has given them. So I find any fanfic about them is going to be completely, creator driven.
You're buying into what they think.
Yeah, and so if you have a very specific interpretation of the character, and you read this, and their interpretation is very different from yours, that's going to pull you out of the story. So that's one thing I really like Luna Celestia, like that little sweet spot. If you know them well enough to write for them, and also there's still enough room for your own interpretation of them. Also, for the dying filly, my OC in the story, I tried to I kind of went the other direction on the Mary Sue. It's like she's very vulnerable, and and it's also I tried to make it so that she was not defined by one personality trait, and that's what each of the chapters is about. Each of her different dreams represents a different aspect of her personality. I seem to have forgot where I'm going with this, so...
Fanfiction!
Alright, one idea that's been ruminating in my head for a while has been a crossover between My Little Pony and the Super Giant Video game Bastards. But if you've ever played it, you know that the narrative style is very unique, and to turn that into a fiction would be very stylized.
Did you say that's a video game?
Bastion.
Oh, Bastion! Oh, I know what that is.
It's a big one.
Yeah, I've thought about doing crossovers a few times, and it's always very difficult because there has to be like a viewpoint story. Like if you're writing a crossover to My Little Pony and Phineas and Ferb, it's like, are you gonna write from perspective of Twilight or Rainbow Dash, wherever we're gonna do from Phineas and Ferb or Candace.
Yeah.
And I love Phineas and Ferb, and I thought about writing it. I actually started writing it. I couldn't get very far just because I had no idea where that viewpoint would go.
From the perspective.
Anyways, what I was saying is the last time I tried to submit a fiction that was that stylized and 2D, they shot me down on stylistic basis. They just didn't agree.
Well, the problem with Bastion...
The way I structured it, and so they kicked back.
Well, the problem with a lot of video game crossovers, and Bastion is kind of a weird one because you play Bastion, most of the story in that game is given by the narrator.
Yeah.
And so most of the gameplay is just you running around and exploring the world, defeating enemies, and the narrator is the one giving all the background. And so that's kind of a weird. I can see how that would.
Well, I didn't submit it, but I'm saying the last time I tried to submit something that would be that stylized, I shot it down. And so, do you know how to play Frogger with them?
I got a few fics were rejected by Equestria Daily, and this is the first one that I liked. And actually, I was actually surprised that when I first submitted it, they just said, "Oh, okay, just clean up some radical things here and there, and then we'll post it." I was like, "Oh, my first try, I got it." And I think the premise has a lot to do with that. I thought a lot of people just, like I said, when I explained it to all you, they're just kind of, whoa. Oh, yeah.
I guess how do you create characters?
I generally, for this story, the OC character I had named Novella, it was actually, none of the stories are created the same way, but the way I came up with this was I saw that Luna Going Into Dreams episode. I saw that, I thought, there's a fanfic in there somewhere.
Sleepless in Ponyville.
Yeah, Sleepless in Ponyville, and there's some Luna dream fics floating around. You know, Luna goes in the dream to some pony. It's weird. You know that's fine, but I kind of want to take it a step further.
You know what that laptop needs? It needs a small sticker of Rapunzel.
Thank you. Is that from Tangled?
Yes.
Yes, I love that movie.
Sweet.
Yes. So again, I was just, as for creating the character of Novella, I thought of the premise first. I thought, you know, what if Luna goes into a dream of someone who's dying?
Yeah.
And from there, I thought, you know, if they're dying, what kind of anxieties? How do they get to this point?
Yeah.
It's kind of, so that was kind of where her character came from. Is that you know, she's very sad, but she kind of has a rough history. She doesn't really want to wake up. That was kind of Luna's arc. Is that not only is this Philly dying, but she doesn't want to wake up, and Luna's goal is to convince her that it's okay. And so from there, I was thinking about what's her family like? How is she treated? What are her interests? And that's where the character developed from there. Actually, since I finished this fanfic, I've started working on a novel, and so you know, a lot of these questions are hitting me a lot hard, and actually, really, I've learned a lot of things by writing this story. Well, okay.
I was actually just going to ask you a follow-up on his. So are you saying do you make most of your characters kind of based like from your story idea, or do you base stories around your characters?
I think it can be either way, but I think I would go with the story first and think about characters that fit the need. I mean, like, you know, whenever you look at any story, you know, there's if there's like an adventure story, you know, there's the tough guy, there's the wimpy guy, there's the you know, there's the girl, which I hate using, like, you know, the one girl. But, you know, there's all these archetypes, and the reason there's all these archetypes is because they want a wide variety of characters for people to identify with. And so for the novel, I've been kicking around a little bit. It's all about, you know, how I have the situation first, I have that hook, and then it just kind of, the idea just expands from there. What kind of situations are these characters going to run into? How do these characters get to be in these situations? You know, what's their family like? And actually, one thing I really liked was, you all know the game designer Tim Schafer, worked on Psychonauts? I was listening to a talk on him one time, and he said that the way he likes to create characters is that he goes to Facebook or Friendster or some other social networking site. You know, they have all those questions like, what are your interests? What do you like? And, you know, there's also that, you know, those personality survey tests. You just kind of go through those over and over with different characters in mind. That's one way to build characters.
When I was working on Warhammer fanfic, I like did that kind of same thing. I was just going through like personality tests and weird.
Of course, the advantage of writing fan fiction is that you're working with characters who are already established.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes some of the problems away, because, you know, everyone knows Luna, everyone knows Celestia. It's all about my take on those characters. You know, and one thing I noticed immediately from working on my news story as opposed to my fan fiction was, you know, my fan fiction was all about getting to know Novella. It was all about developing her character, Luna about her character. When you're writing kind of an original story, you probably have several characters who already know each other very well, and from there it's kind of a challenge to kind of establish those relationships while also not, like, you know, you don't want to overload the reader with exposition. You don't want to have them have to memorize text. One recent book that I really couldn't get into was Dune. Has anyone read Dune? It's kind of a classic sci-fi novel.
Oh yes, Dune.
Yeah, Dune.
Yeah.
And kind of the problem I had with it was that you have to learn a lot up front, and so much that it really impacted the story, because you're so busy trying to learn about this world, learn about these characters. They already have, like, at the beginning of the book, they already have these really complicated, you know, relationships, and as a result, I just couldn't get into the story. As opposed to, say, you know, Harry Potter, you know, we start with Harry Potter, you learn about him. Actually, you learn about him before, like, right after he's born. He's the one who defeated. You learn about his living family, then you meet Hagrid, then you learn about the wizard world, then you go to meet, you know, all these characters, all these elements are introduced one by one by one.
So they build up your suspension of belief.
No, it's just kind of introducing the character elements. You don't want to overwhelm them with information.
That's kind of my problem with China Mieville. If anyone's ever read Perdido Street Station, it's just every second he's throwing 8 million new facts in your face, and I like the world the story takes place in, but it's so painful to get through.
I guess if you're one of those really artsy types, you can just like completely confuse your reader into. I've certainly seen a few stories where I had no idea what was going on, but I couldn't help but be fascinated by it all. Yeah. The game Killer 7 comes to mind if anyone's played that.
Introduce a new concept, and it'll be here for 5 minutes and deliver it.
Any other questions? Yeah. There was one I read recently that I like called, I think it was called The Numbers Don't Lie. Basically, basically the Kingdom Crusaders, they dug up an artifact that causes counters to show up all over every pony's head.
Excel survivor.
So every time they lie, the counter would go up.
Oh.
And
What's it called? Numbers don't lie.
I think it was The Numbers Don't Lie.
Counter don't lie?
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah. I'm really bad with fanfic names, so I wouldn't be able to tell you all of them. But there's one I liked. I think it was starring Shirley. It was basically every pony was shipping her with every other pony, and it kind of culminated in every pony in town chasing her, demanding that she hook up with every other pony. It was just completely parodying the shipping phenomenon. I loved it. I don't read too many grimdarks. My story gets a little dark at times. But, no. Those gore tags scare me.
It doesn't necessarily have to be gore, it's just dark in writing and what's going on in the story.
There was a fan video about that Mirror episode with Pinkie Pie, where basically like there's an extra ending to the episode where like Pinkie goes back to the mirror pond, and then like the real Pinkie is in the pond screaming for help.
That's dark.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Why is it that, or why do you think that some fanfics that change characters, like Rainbow Factory, where Rainbow Dash, you're talking earlier about how characters are set. Why do you think some of them are, like some people really like it when they change the characters up, and other ones people try to change up because they don't like it?
I have no idea.
Well, you can make like a story reason for why they changed like that. You give them a reason why they went from point A to point B.
I think part of it is shock value. Like when Cupcakes first came, amazingly, Cupcakes was not when Cupcakes was first brought out. The story tricks you into thinking it's a shipping story because you have Rainbow Dash and you have Pinkie Pie and they're making cupcakes and it's fun and it's silly and oh god, she's cutting off her wings.
Surprise!
And so in that case, like it is kind of shock value, but I think part of it is that I don't really want to be insulting of anyone, especially especially new writers, because the whole reason the Mary Sue exists is because it's kind of a fantasy, and well, I think all fiction is kind of fantasy and is escapism. And so the Mary Sue is just that, I want this character to represent me, and he or she is perfect, and everybody loves them. And I think over time, as you mature, you realize that people aren't like that, and people have flaws. And personally, when I read a story or watch a TV show that I'm really invested in, I like to see those characters, well, to be honest, suffer, because then I know that I'm not alone, and I want to see them overcome their problems. And I actually really don't like depressing stories that end on a bad note, because it's like I just devoted 8 hours of my life to this story and then everything was bad. What am I doing? Not every story needs to have a happy ending, especially if there's some kind of point you need to make. But generally, I like to keep my stories that have some kind of that we survived this crap.
Actually,
yeah.
I was actually curious about pacing. The problem I run into with a lot of fanfics is you'll open one and it'll be like 4 sentences long, and it'll say come back in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And then you'll have others that are just a gigantic unedited block of text that you go through for like 8 hours. You just constantly lose your place. How do you pace yours? I mean, just saying like any particular like guidelines you use when you're posting yours.
You gotta have ups and downs. Like I said, for my story, there are several chapters where Luna's in the dream, and then there's other chapters where she kind of comes out, and then Celestia's there, and there's kind of there's internal problems and external problems. So it's all about kind of balancing, which is actually that makes a nice metaphor for my little heart rate monitor, because there's up and down, and down. And that pacing was definitely a problem I had with my earlier stories, especially after I wrote chapters that are like 30,000 words long.
Well, and I guess a better word for what I was asking is like formatting. Like I'm saying, when you did you post it like all at once or in like multiple chapters?
I posted it in multiple chapters, partly because that makes it easier to read. At the end of every chapter, there's kind of like I like to put cliffhangers at the end of every chapter, and towards the end, I got a comment that was saying, "God damn it with the cliffhanger! Stop that!"
And I'm not looking for like exact like word count, but like each time you posted something, I mean, you could read for a little while.
Yeah, you kind of read for a little while, and then you kind of get to a point that kind of, okay, this is a good stopping point, but also there's enough there to make you want to go to the next one.
When you do chapters, do you have a set goal for each chapter? You like, okay, in this chapter I want this to happen, or I'm trying to get to this end of it.
Yeah, I kind of, when I start writing chapters, it's like, okay, this is where I am right now, and this is where I want the chapter to be, and it's all about connecting the two. And sometimes that can be very challenging, especially when it starts to go off rails, and you kind of have to railroad it back on, or you have to like delete 2 whole pages because the story is going a completely different direction.
Fanfiction going off the rails, the hell you say?
All right, what's your question?
No.
It's off the rails.
Like they always have like, I'm reading fan fictions, they always have like a block to another one, but how many do you have? Like you'll always have.
Wait, what was that?
Like there's like always, like there's a lot of stories that the author wrote, and on the other side if you look down. But how many stories can they hold in that?
He's talking about how the multiple pages organized. How many stories can be?
Story. I actually only have a handful of stories on my page, so I wouldn't be able to answer that. I know that there are a lot of really prolific authors, and they just keep writing, and I am shocked at how many 200,000 word stories there are out there.
Wow.
Like especially with the Fallout Equestria series, the standard Fallout Equestria is like longer than Lord of the Rings.
Get on with it.
And then there's like a spin-off that's even longer.
Yeah. 41 chapters.
I couldn't read it because I was just all like, oh, that word count.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to me. It's like, it's cool that you're this invested in your characters and you have this much enthusiasm for the story. It's like, write an actual book.
Yeah.
There are books now.
Yep.
What's a concept that you think that the fandom has yet to explore, has not explored enough, that you want to see more in stories? It's like a concept or a theme that has not been touched upon that there should be more of.
To be honest, I don't think that. I think that it's more about what appeals to you personally. I mean, different people are going to have different interpretations of the characters, and different things in the show are going to stand out to them. That's why the who is best pony debates are so heated.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was kind of that idea, that episode of Sleepless in Ponyville stood out to me because I thought that, that's a very interesting mechanic of Luna being able to go into the dreams, because Inception is actually one of my favorite movies. Yeah, and I was kind of interested in what would a princess be doing going into dreams? How would that work? And so then kind of that was what led me to develop Luna's character, is like how it was specifically from the point of view of a princess. And that was actually one of the few actual connecting things, because there are some pony stories that actually aren't about My Little Pony. Yeah. That you can turn them into humans and wouldn't change the story one bit. And especially compared to the Slender Pony story I wrote, like the problem I had writing down was like I was writing around canon. I kind of had come up with convenient excuses for everything that happened without contradicting the show.
Yeah.
And so that's why I took with Luna, because I wanted something more detached from the show. And so, most of the story takes place inside a dream, so I have this own little world inside of a bigger world. And so I guess, to answer your question, I don't know about stories that need to be developed, but it's just, any kind of art is just about expression. It's all about what stands out to you, what message do you want to send, what ideas do you want explored, and I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for myself. And of course, that's kind of what's interesting about fiction. You get to see all these other points of view, all these other stories. A lot of people like to bash Hunger Games because they say it's a ripoff of Battle Royale.
Yeah.
How many of you have read both stories or seen both movies? All right. Well,
The problem with that is that you may have an idea that someone else has done, and it's not so much about if it's already been done yet, but how you go about doing it.
Yeah, and that's the idea. It's like I actually love both Hunger Games and Battle Royale because they're both about teenagers killing each other, but the themes of the story are completely different. Battle Royale is all about rejecting authority and trying to kind of standing up for yourself, and Hunger Games is more about our obsession with reality TV and kind of the facade that we put on to try and fit in with the world. And so, even if you have a story idea that sounds kind of similar, there are still a lot of different ways you can go with that.
So really, Hunger Games is actually just Battle Royale meets the honey.
I guess so.
So what you're saying is there's a great idea for a story about ponies in Battle Royale.
I thought that was another crossover fanfic I thought about doing. But actually, if you're asking about my favorite fanfics, one of my favorite fanfics was not a pony fanfic, but there was a Battle Royale story. It was crossed over with Azumega Daioh, which is the happy slice of life Japanese anime.
Oh, the many times I've run across R-rated Hamtaro fics. It made me just want to go and it's like, let me take the most violent anime and then make one that's just completely normal. Like, they baked a pie.
Yeah,
that's it.
What's really weird about it sounds stupid, like the happy-go-lucky, Japanese anime with Battle Royale. But what stood out to me was it was a comedy fic, and there were a lot of it's like Battle Royale is a very intense book and movie. Yeah. It's very tense. It can leave you crying, and I was impressed at how that fanfic could take the most tense situation and just suck all the tension out of it with one sentence.
What was that sentence?
There was a scene where the little girl, she's trapped on this island. She has a gun and she's fighting for her life. She's like, this is the most scared she's ever been, other than those times that she rode in the car with her teacher.
It sounds like a Family Guy cutaway gag.
What happens in this car stays in the car.
Can I get off the roads? I just get a picture. A ship between Rainbow Dash and a shark. And it's popular.
Of course. Ship between Rainbow and who?
A shark. It's got 70 inches trees.
I've seen some pretty weird fanfics. I read one that was a shipping story between Tom the Rock and the Weighted Companion Cube. There's another one where I read where Twilight got pregnant.
Oh, isn't that one? She's pregnant from Scissors. Or she thinks
wow.
No. It's just really funny one shot where she thinks she's pregnant all the time and she's running around the main stage. How did this happen? What am I going to do is the funniest thing.
Get fat.
Although I will say that the fandom needs to tone down the shipping a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if shipping is your thing, that's fine. I'm not gonna try to take your thing away from you. I've seen way too many stories. I've seen way too many stories where I just read the synopsis oh, this sounds really interesting, and then I read one page. It's ship factory, and it's this story would have been fantastic if not for everything.
You forget that ease them into it. Don't make that this thing you're constantly throwing in your face.
It's like you get a president, you unwrap it, and you realize it's something you not really want. It's something you definitely don't want.
Exactly. But the most egregious example of this this was a story where the synopsis was that Twilight had got a boyfriend and then they broke up with her and broke her heart, and the story is told from Princess Celestia's point of view. And it was like, oh, that sounds like a cute story. I mean, I can see her not being, very experienced with relationships, and I can see Celestia kind of trying to figure out how to balance, comforting her while, not trying to control her life. Read one page and Celestia's like fantasizing about making out with
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
But that's happened over and over and over, and every time I click a new thing, I'm like, please don't be a ship. Please don't be a ship.
The internet found a way.
If you watch the episodes all at the end, you're probably saying, oh yeah, I get it now.
Yep.
Can we make it an official rule that to become a video game, you have to read my immortal?
That's why I live in the thing.
I know. I have heard of that story. I personally avoided it because I feel like I would probably be lost for it. I am not surprised. My Immortal is a Harry Potter fanfic, which is like the most egregious self-insert.
It's amazing.
It is a how-to about how to not write a fanfic.
Yeah. I will say that the worst synopsis I've read for a story was it was like, okay, this is a lesbian love trial between Rainbow Dash, Lightning Dust, and my OC.
To be fair, he was direct.
Yeah, he was honest.
He was straightforward.
That's true.
You get what you paid for, man.
Well, you didn't lie about that. This is definitely a lesbian three-way.
No, you know what we need to do?
There are so
We need to talk to everybody. Have full
The reasons they exist because of people with
Twilight Sparkle was Twilight Sparkle's sister.
Final boss of Equestria.
Twilight boss of Equestria.
We hit an emotional high right there.
We all kind of tried to let someone else talk at the same time.
Yeah.
There needs to be a what-if episode in the main series.
Actually, I think there is going to be one.
Yeah.
That Spike Dream episode where they all become superheroes.
Metropolis.
Spoilers. Kind of is. Actually, to be honest, most fiction these days is fan fiction. I mean, Man of Steel is basically 1 2-hour fanfic.
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
No. Into Darkness was a 2-hour fanfic.
That was a troll fic.
Let me copy pasta the entire end part, and let me just add one line in so it's totally original.
Oh, hi, Wrath of Khan. I don't remember paying for you again.
Guys, if it was supposed to be fan fiction, it would have been done with Khan and Colt. Well, you can
Khan and Curtis are like, get in this cell, you. And then they kiss.
Alright, I know which Discord picture you're talking about. He said that.
Yeah, that's one of my.
I wasn't even intending on that, but okay.
No, that's the same Discord picture of exactly. What?
There's a band it's just him being really bored and writing fanfic about this royal guard falling in love with this. It's just him running around making this fanfic. It's hilarious.
They don't have to do some questions yet.
Well, some questions of you guys. What fanfics have you thought about writing? Yeah,
What, the long version of the short?
the short version.
Well, let's see. On the surface level, it's XCOM meets My Little Pony.
Are all the comments, all the inputs of the different characters fighting aliens?
Except they're not, well,
Are you gonna like roll the dice and then like post a comment saying you missed?
yes, no, it's totally that. Well, we should totally make an XCOM My Little Pony game. I'm saying that would be cool, but then all the ponies would die. Everyone would. They would all die.
Well, the problem with like doing crossovers of the video games is like.
Well, no, that's the thing. No. The thing is that if it's more so the concept. It's not actually them fighting aliens, but the way it's like structured, it kind of feels like that a little bit. I felt like that was the easiest explanation. I hate using the X meets Y formula.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was the easiest way to explain it. But
My friend and I were talking about writing a Metal Gear Solid crossover with but we realized to explain it to anyone who's never seen like the game, you have to write a fanfic in his own for each character.
Yeah, that's another problem with writing crossover fanfics is like, you gotta kind of balance, new people with the old people. That's something Fallout Equestria seemed to do pretty well. Because, it's still all about, it's kind of the same as Fallout 3, little Pip, gets out of the vault and goes into the wasteland. It's still kind of the same format, so they introduce the world in the same manner.
yeah.
They should make an episode of that.
Or you could make your own episodes, since apparently you can do that now.
Wait, can it make a fan fiction on an episode?
What?
Can it make no, I said, do they make fan fictions of episodes?
Wait, what do you mean does the team make a story based on a fanfic? I don't think they're not allowed to make those because there are a lot of copyright issues that are involved. Like they cannot read fan fiction at all. I mean, as much as I would love to send Megan McCarthy all my fanfics, it's like
there's another problem. If you were gonna do that, plenty of other people probably would too, and then it would just get flooded, and then.
Of course, the advantage of writing a fanfic is I can write stuff that's never gonna show up in the show.
Yeah.
It'll never make it to air.
Yeah.
An example of that is the background pony. Like Lyra becoming a background pony, and anytime he has a conversation with someone, it's just forgotten.
Unless you're Bon Bon and then every single word you say is subject to scrutiny.
Alright.
Yeah.
I propose we go around and say the best fan fictions that people should read.
Alright.
Asylum!
All Equestria.
Yeah, well.
Anything by the Descendants.
Actually, let's not just shout the names because there's gonna be a million different names. Give like a brief synopsis.
Give a synopsis,
Yeah.
Synopsis.
Happy Scratch shipping that actually isn't bad.
It's gonna take more than that to get to me a real shipping story.
Wasn't that done with the final scratch becomes the vampire thing?
No. It's just a traditional Happy Scratch fic, but
This is why I will never write Octavia in Final Scratch in a fanfic because like I think totally different things of how those characters would interact.
Yeah.
I am intrigued.
I want to solo Octavia.
They break out the galaxy. It's like Groundhog Day. It's fantastic.
Alright.
And it makes you like big ones, which is a weird place to be.
I don't know how to do
Either, what do you?
A fleeting light in the darkness.
What's that about?
It follows the main station in Ponyville. It starts out with Imperial investigators. Everyone in Ponyville is completely gone overnight, and they find Twilight's diary, and it's written like choppy. So there's a few parts that are missing left for the.
I'm guessing there's a twist ending.
Well, they don't know what's going on. The sun never comes up, and
Wouldn't everything freeze to death?
No, there's not even death. There's no gore. It's like everyone is slowly losing their minds in the darkness.
I think you can hang around the Pony fandom enough that'll still happen.
It's a good read. I mean, it's well written. Like even if you don't like grimdark stories, it's well written enough for you to read it.
Okay, cool. The thing about grimdark is that again, I don't necessarily like gore for the sake of gore, and that's the problem with a lot of horror movies. Is like they're just trying to gross you out. It's like, oh god, they just chopped off his arm and he's making him eat his intestines. It's like I don't necessarily want to see that, but if the gore if it serves a purpose. If it's like if it's showing the horrors, if it's about the story of these characters and emphasizing the situation that they're in and how they want to escape, that's interesting. Yeah. Not just psychological gore. That was actually something I ran into toward one of my late chapters. I actually do have a chapter that's fairly violent late on, and I was kind of a problem because I wanted to describe the fight, I wanted to describe what was going on, but I also didn't want to seem like I was making. Yeah, I didn't want to like make the violence the part of the story. And so I kind of had to drift in and out of, okay, this is what's happening. this is how Luna's reacting to the situation, and then kind of this is how it's resolving itself. It's not just fight, gore, stab, death.
Pony heads.
No, cut.
No.
I don't know why, but I just pictured all writers as creepy man boys with funny toys going, man.
I only have 2.
I only have 2 that I do that.
Red syrup, just
Yep.
I thought the cough was okay. It's
The cough?
The cough, yeah. It's sort of. It's not really grimdark. It's darker. It's not gore. There's like one like pretty graphic part of it, but it's not the same.
What's it about?
It's essentially this. There's this cough. It's this sickness going around Ponyville, and the main 6 are trapped inside the Twilight's library, and it starts off in the darkness, some looking cough. And they try to figure
Oh,
out-
I think I.
They don't know who it is.
I think I had a conversation. Was I talking to you? I think it might have been. I heard somebody talk about that this weekend.
That's really good. That is apparently the sequel for the. It's not like a huge fan, but it's like.
Was it called The Coffining?
It's just like a one chapter thing.
Yeah, call harder.
Yeah.
Ugh. Man, I would love to read you stuff, but my computer hates me.
Yeah.
So, you guys want to hear about the novel that I'm writing now?
Sure. Should go.
All right,
for
so
it.
I went from this, very sad kind of, touching story with very, mind screwy elements to a story about an evil dictator who dies and leaves his immature son in charge of the country. That's quite a shift in tone, isn't it?
I was gonna say something, but
And of course, it's just basically Kim Jong-un.
yeah, I knew it. I knew it.
A coming of age story about the son of an evil dictator who enslaves his country.
Oh Jesus!
Just because I can.
You just call it a dictator or something?
What?
What's it called, a dictator?
Yeah, his father was a dictator, and then he died, and his will, he wanted his son to run the country, even though he's grossly underqualified.
That's like non-fan-fiction stuff. There are so many fan-fictions.
No, I'm talking about an actual novel.
Yeah. That's not fair. That's like.
Yeah.
I've got a really big Dragon Ball Z fan fiction. I actually have it on WordPress right now, and it's the movie I would make if I had all the resources in the world at my disposal. You should read about it. It's called Dragon Ball Z: Wrath of Vegeta.
All right. So your homework is to watch The Last Airbender, and then don't do that. I love Avatar, but that movie is wow. Generally in fanfiction, the characters are stronger than they were in the show.
Yeah. Am I the only one here who saw Dragon Ball Evolution?
I think I saw a little bit.
I'm not checking out some midnight. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. It was bad. That's all I
Why did I go in to see The Last Airbender with high expectations?
Because you were lied to.
To make a shitty movie like that look good in the previews, whoever made the trailer for The Last Airbender is a fucking genius.
Yeah.
obviously had a lot more talent than me.
That wasn't recommended.
Yeah, maybe there's.
Yeah.
Why is he still getting work? Be serious. Like, just make the torture stop.
Heavy Rain's kind of actually kind of interesting. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's well written, but it's interesting.
It was a fun experiment, but the way they were trying to build it up is like it's this movie interactive experience. And I'm not like, it's okay.
And a lot of amateur writers will write mysteries without actually having a solution.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that. I've done it.
Yeah.
What's your question?
It's probably being my first fanfic on my part. It's an idea that really, I like whoever said it, I have a lot of ideas that go through my head. And sometimes one will come up and I'll focus on that one. This one I've had way too much in my head for a while, but it's one where it's like Rainbow Dash's father, but long before the canon time. So he's by himself and he's very much like Rainbow Dash, very brash, very abrasive. But he finds Rainbow Dash on a doorstep left behind by a lover that he barely remembers. And so yeah, it's just about him having to go.
So it's Milo Dashy except in canon.
It's a funny version of that.
But more about him being like a frat boy sort of thing and having to grow up through his experience of raising a daughter.
That'll be okay.
Oh, I have an idea for a fiction for the Rainbow Dash, where she has a kid who cannot fly.
You mean Scoodle?
Yeah. We might see that in season 4.
Frat boy is an interesting way to
Not so much as a Tony fanfics, but fanfics in general. Like, which websites would you recommend posting that stuff on?
Just throw it up on fanfiction.net. If it's good, people will find it. At least that's my experience. I actually wrote a.
It's really good or really bad.
Community fanfic where Abed becomes a Brony. But they wouldn't let me post on fanfiction because it was technically a community fanfic.
Yeah.
And I still get emails about people posting comments on it. Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Actually looking back and reading, it's like, it's okay.
Everyone check out the Hard Reset fanfiction?
No.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It sounds
Very good.
Yeah.
I can probably.
Yeah, I felt
Think
like.
about you know that one light novel, and you know that one Japanese light novel. It's called All You Need Is Kill. It's about this guy who continuously gets stronger every time he goes through the time loop, and he's just a cop. And they're about to come out. But it's basically like that same synopsis.
Sounds like a lot of RPGs I've played.
I thought I heard that.
What's your?
That one magical throw over okay. I felt like what I had said earlier, it's XCOM meets Pony. That was a very poor explanation, and I felt like I should reiterate what it was.
Do you take notes for this comment? Because you're more prepared for your comments than I am for this entire presentation.
I've been writing stuff down. I don't know.
I don't know. I was just writing little things that it's a wisdom, basically. But basically, what I was just going around was I kind of did what I was going around is that I was browsing around a bunch of different fiction and basically going, I always just around fan fiction, and I just noticed that there's a lot of human and equestria fiction, and I'm just all like, these all just seem like it's the same and everything, and I just thought, hold on. What if we take a massive deconstruction of that? And basically make it in a situation where
Yeah, it's like if I wrote a human equestrian thing, it'd be like, holy shit, I'm a world full of ponies, I need to get home.
No. Here it is. It's just using the escapism of being a pony in general, and then taking away what would make that escapism and suddenly make that situation very terrifying.
Have you seen that? There was this choose your own adventure game that somebody made about being a Brony in Equestria.
Yes, I did. That was hilarious. I gotta say, that's a hilarious deconstruction. It was more of a dramatic
For those of you who haven't read, it's just like the stereotypical Brony goes to Equestria, and you get like the weirdest dialogue options of like you meet Nightmare Moon. It's like, how do you defeat Nightmare Moon? It's like by showing off your awesome Brony skills.
There's just so much sarcasm in there. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I see you move closer.
On the topic of human equestrian stories, there's one, I'm trying to remember its name, I don't think I'll be able to, but it was not that humans go to Equestria, it was that, suppose that humans once were in Equestria, but they went extinct, and it's going off the world that
Sounds like Adventure Time.
It's essentially like they were there at one point, and it's, I can't remember, it was actually fairly well written. It was actually not like, typical human equestria, like saying stuff over and over. It was actually like the story of it, and Twilight, how she learns about, reads up on the study of it, and how it's like a forgotten study.
Is that why they have all that magic and technology? Because they just stole it off the humans.
It was Myers' idea.
Yeah. Also, why is it always that we have to go visit them? Why don't they visit us?
Because they want that.
Not an Equestria girl. It's an actual here thing.
If one of you could write a story about Twilight just popping into this room right now, and what would happen?
Speaking of good human things, there's one that I mentioned earlier called Human. That's really all it's called, and it's one of the few human fics that get featured on EQD, and it's about a couple of the writers of the show actually end up as villains, Discord-like villains in the show, and what happens is they figure out that their ability to draw and to write stuff into the world carried over when they became villains, and so they.
Why are they villains?
Because they don't care about the world and they know it's a fictional
If I was sucked into my story, I wouldn't be like, Novella, I hate you. I'm gonna make your life worse now.
Well, think about it. If you suddenly live in the world of Grand Theft Auto, you know that it's a fake world.
We are living in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, so you just gun everything down and fly helicopters.
Have you watched the news recently?
But it's actually
How much time do we have left?
It was supposed to end 30 minutes ago.
I don't know, my computer shut down.
Yeah, and the fact that the karaoke thing was canceled means that there's a giant chunk of time that's not being discussed about everything.
Yeah,
Actually, it is. I do that.
I have a question.
Okay. Yep.
Can we just not leave? Can we pick it?
We could move it like over there, maybe. We could have our own little congregation.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we kind of figured that out.
All right. I guess we.
We could